Damn, y'all feel that?
Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. A message to all you pseudo spitters. The sound is cool, but the trend I see is the truth is missing. I feel the flow is stupid. You claim that the music's different. I guess it's all opinion, depending on who was listening.
But what's the word, y'all? It's KTR podcast, hashtag KTR. We are KTR. We are back in the building for episode 78 of No Roast Podcast. Yes, that's right. Episode 78, live and direct. No Roast Podcast / hashtag KTR. We are KTR and we are back. But before we dive into this episode real quick, I got to check in with my brothers, and that is Harv and Jade himself. And my brothers, how are y'all feeling today?
Doing beautiful, man. How about y'all?
It's a good day. Let's make this happen.
That's right. It is a good day and it's a Friday, so let's get this show on the road. But before we get this show on the road, y'all, the listeners of the Rust community, y'all gotta do this one simple favor for me, and that is to follow us on all social media platforms: KCR_podcast, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. No Roast Podcast, Facebook, YouTube. No Roast Podcast on all podcast platforms. We got Google Podcasts, got Spotify, we got Anchor, we got Apple Podcasts, got Poppy on everything. And don't forget to get that merch at progresstees.com/KTR podcast. Let's get in, let's go, let's get into the show. And when we're gonna start off this show, we're gonna start off with just right. We're gonna start off with my favorite woman in the wrestling industry right now, in the wrestling business, in the wrestling world, who is now with the World Wrestling Entertainment at the moment, and that is none other than the Miss Jade Cargill. Yes, Miss Jade Cargill. Yes, it is, man. Missed her on TV because she was gone for a little minute. She had a little hiatus after losing the TBS championship, but she came back to fulfill her duties and get that rematch for that title with that other wrestling promotion that comes on awkward days of Wednesdays and Saturdays and possibly Friday nights. Yes, AEW. And she did that, and she dipped for a bit. Not for a bit, but completely. Just to sign with somebody with bigger and better with a bigger bag. And that is with the WWE. For me, you need to know how I feel about Jade Cargill. I love her. She's number one on my list. You know, she just boom. Like she her being on WWE, like now it's either Monday Night Raw or SmackDown for me. It's gonna be my favorite show. But she's number one. I finally found somebody that passed up Charlotte Flair for me now. So I'm happy. Yeah. So she's my number one. How you feel about Bianca is how I feel about Jade. So yes, I am happy that Jade is with the WWE. But my brothers, how do y'all feel about the return of Miss Cargill and with her being on the World Wrestling Entertainment? We're gonna start with you, Jay, because I know Jay Hard got stuff to say about this one. So yeah, I'm gonna start with you real quick. Tell me how you feel.
Of course, I love the opportunity for Jade Cargill to sign with the WWE. I'm still going to state that when she signed with AEW, I was her biggest fan, and I got all kinds of hate. And look at what she's done. She became undefeated for 50-0 until she lost her belt with an undefeated reign, where now if you look at the TBS championship, you're only going to think of Jade Cargill because Jade Cargill pretty much became that championship. But yeah, then she stepped away, well deserved, sat on vacation, came back, had her last match, cool. But now she signed back with the WWE. Of course, there's a lot of hype for her, but we've all seen it before where there's a lot of hype for a wrestler and doesn't turn out too well.
Ooh,
but regardless,
we're not gonna compare it to that one guy.
we're just going to say that I have big hopes for Jade Cargill personally. She started off. She actually tried out for the WWE back in 2019. She didn't agree to the contract that she had, but she went out. She worked on herself. She got better, and she came back with a bigger bag. But me being the critic that I have to, one thing I would like to see from Jade Cargill, I would like to see her expand her in-ring ability just a bit more. That's just me personally. It's not saying that she's terrible in the ring because throughout KTR, everyone knows that I have been a supporter of her. And because I'm a supporter of her, I'm going to keep it real. She does great in the ring. She is a standard tall powerhouse, which is great, but I feel that she can do more. She's only been wrestling for about 5 years in total now. So I know there's more that we can definitely get out of her. And I feel that if she does take this opportunity in the WWE, obviously to get the bag, but I feel she also has a more structured environment to be in, to where she can try different things to expand her repertoire. So I have big hopes for Jade Cargill in the WWE.
I think WWE
here we go.
right where she needs to be, but not for the same reasons that J-Bo stated. I think the exact opposite. I think that she's built for WWE. She doesn't need to expand anything. They're not built for most people to expand their repertoires. It's not what WWE wants. They want you to stick to the few moves, get the crowd familiar, get the crowd hot. And I feel like she's the perfect woman with the perfect move set to do something like that. So I think that it's a good move for her, honestly. I mean, not as negative as you thought. You know?
I'm kind of shocked. I know this
That was a good move for her. I expected her to spend more time with AEW because she won that one title, lost that one title, and didn't do anything else. But it's an interesting move, and I think that it's a good move for her in particular. So I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm surprised. I agree with Harv what he just said. Like, I am flabbergasted for a bit, but at the same time, it's like he's right. She does fit the dirty mold. It was so much attention behind her when she got signed. It's crazy that all that happened for her. Everybody in the media picked her up. It was first reported by ESPN. The next thing you know, she had all this and that going on for her, like all the black media outlets out here and stuff like that. So it's insane that this actually happened for her. So like I see a lot of good things happen for her, being a good brand ambassador for the company too as well, making a lot of media appearances. So it works out in her favor. So I can't wait to see what is in store for her. And she's gonna beat Bianca, J-Bo, and accept it.
Oh, I'm okay with it. I am 1,000% okay with it. 1,000%.
She's not better than Bianca.
Okay. You're right. She's not better than her. No, I know athletically and as a wrestler, but she's gonna beat Bianca.
I beat Bianca, I still wouldn't be mad, even if Bianca is a far better in-ring athlete than her. I still okay.
Yeah, it's no lose-lose situation. Everybody wins, so
win-win.
It's a win-win. Yeah. And speaking of winning, I really don't know where I was going with this. It sounded like a good segue, but now I'm thinking about it. We can talk about winning because winning relates to titles. Titles relate to championships. We're gonna talk about championships real quick. And my thing is, why is it that it appears that these NXT titles are on the main roster of WWE? It's throwing me off for a bit right now because we have Becky Lynch as the women's NXT champion. We have Rey Mysterio's son as the North American champion currently. This might change after this episode. I don't know because they do fight in No Mercy. And potentially the Heritage Cup could go to the main roster because Butch is wrestling for against Noam Dar at No Mercy. So like all this might change. So I'm trying to figure out what direction is NXT going with putting these championships on main roster people. I'm confused. What you think?
NXT is not long for this world, my friend. All right. They aren't going to be televised at the very least. I do not believe that after their next television deal expires, I don't think that they're going to be on TV anymore. And I think that because of the merger, they're prepping for that. That's honestly the only logical reason that I can think of. Giving it to such high-profile individuals on the main roster is not going to do anything for people on NXT because those people on NXT are not being seen in the same ring with the people on the main roster shows. So it doesn't help them. And I think that the point of that is because they are going to go back to a regular old developmental style once the merger takes full effect, and NXT just won't have a place anymore.
I agree with Harv. Honestly, I've read allegedly, and I doubt how true it is. But there's an idea of they're putting on main roster stars and having them come over to NXT to sort of prove that hey, NXT can still be seen as a liable brand. That's why we have big stars like Becky Lynch come over. We have we they had Mustafa Ali, but we saw what happened with that. But yeah, we're bringing other wrestlers down to show hey, we still care about this brand. But back to Harv's point, from where it is now, unfortunately, the future isn't too bright with it. The unfortunate thing is they have to do these methods where they have to bring in these other wrestlers just to get more views or have people care about it like they used. And I'm not saying that they don't, because if you look at the fanfare that takes place, at least on the interwebs or the wrestling community, like there's still a whole lot of love for NXT, which I'll acknowledge. However, if and this is my personal opinion, if NXT Black and Gold was still around, they wouldn't have to prove themselves as what they're doing now by bringing all these extra wrestlers to come down and bringing more views. They did all of it organically. But the days of the Black and Gold obviously is gone. We know that we are in the NXT 2.0 era, even though they don't call it 2.0 anymore. That's the era that we're in. Yeah, that's why they're putting the titles on them. They want to still kind of show that they mean something, but it's inevitable at this point where it's going.
So with that, we see. So what happened between the NXT Black and Gold compared to NXT 2.0? Why you think there's that difference right there?
The difference is with NXT 2.0, they're bringing in wrestlers who are extremely fresh or former college athletes who may have not had a long-term goal of being a wrestler, but they can get into this field and see how far they go. Whether with NXT Black and Gold, you had wrestlers from other wrestling organizations, independents, people who live and breathe and bleed wrestling itself, and bringing that passion and bringing it on a grander scale. So fans, we're more invested. The matches are better. You have people like Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. You had all these wrestling minds behind the scene that also, I guess, give more energy into the storylines. Like all of that obviously showed out to the fans, to the product, to what we see with takeovers, with the main events. I could start naming the wrestlers, but you all know that for yourself. With NXT 2.0, you just got a bunch of young athletes who, they can do the WWE style to eventually go to the main roster. Former NXT, you didn't have to focus on going to the main roster because it was good as it was. That was it. So that there's a major difference between the two. One of them was going on the other one, which we see now, they're prepping it for the main roster. That's the difference.
Yeah, anything to add to that, Big Horn?
No, I agree with them. It's a difference in talent, really. They were recruiting people that already knew how to wrestle and just trying to adapt them to the WWE style. Now they're basically trying to home grow them. Which, if we look back past the last 10, almost 15 years now, the stars that lasted in WWE were guys that came from the indies, not the guys that they tried to churn out themselves. So it's laughable almost. But we know WWE gonna do what WWE want to do, and they made the deal with Endeavor or UFC, whatever you want to call it, and it's just things are gonna be done different. I feel like they're gonna go back down to more what FCW was. It's not gonna be something that's highly televised, a crowd regularly. It's gonna be more like house show type format. It's just gonna downgrade. It's just not gonna be what we're used to now. But I also think that it's kind of going to backfire because I don't think WWE knows how to build homegrown stars anymore. They haven't in a very, very long time. Pretty much everybody in the bloodline, admittedly, is homegrown. That's about it.
Yeah.
Guess we're gonna see what shoved Roman Reigns down our throats until they got it right.
So y'all gonna take it, y'all gonna like it.
Y'all gonna take it. Now, I was campaigning for him to go heel a la The Rock from the beginning. I kept saying that was really the only way that he was gonna get over. They finally turned him heel, and it worked. Sometimes that's all that will work initially, but I don't think they have the wherewithal to build somebody organic.
Mm-hmm.
They just have to, the crowd either has to do it for them, or they're gonna have to go back down to the indies eventually. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We will have to see. We will have to see. And speaking of the indies, it's quite ironic that you mentioned that, because unfortunately, it's around that time again where, wrestlers unfortunately get released from their contractual job with the WWE and or onto their future endeavors, which could be, rest on the independent promotion, going to another major show, or where their heart desires. But we did have roster cuts that happened in the past week, or weeks, I should say. There's rumors there are more to come, but currently, right now, the WWE superstars that have been released are Matt Riddle, Dolph Ziggler, Shelton Benjamin, Elias, Mustafa Ali, Emma, Rick Moss, Aaliyah, Top Dollar, Rick Boogs, Mace, Mansoor, Dana Brooke, Dabba-Kato, Shanky, Quincy Elliott, Bryson Montana, Daniel MacArthur, Alexis Gray, Brooklyn Barlow, and a couple others as well. I probably didn't list them, but yeah. And I figured they're on the NXT brand as well, the ones that did get released that I didn't mention. So how y'all feel about these releases? What is one person out there list that you're surprised that got released?
Shanky, not Shanky. No.
I mean, realistic. That comes surprise, because rest like him is like, well, wait, did it say Mansoor too? Yep, Mansoor. Like, I'm surprised they got released because of their whole connection with with them going to India, Saudi Arabia, something like that, when they wrestle overseas, and that grand spectacle show, and that's like the big draw for them and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that came as a surprise to me, if anything.
No, Dolph Ziggler was really the biggest surprise to me.
Well,
Personally,
because
yeah, go ahead.
You got it.
I do get the surprise for most people, because I'm not gonna lie, when I read the name, there was a level of surprise, but at the same time, it was sort of like the WWE wasn't doing anything with him over the past, I would argue, let's see, 2013, I would say over the past 7-ish years, they've done absolutely nothing with Dolph Ziggler. Even his NXT title reign, it was random number one, and then he lost it on a random Monday Night Raw to the same person he technically beat it from. So it's a forgettable reign, to be honest. I think I said in our group chat, Dolph Ziggler should have left 10 years ago. He should have left 10 years ago, and he should have gone off and actually been the phenomenal wrestler that he is. But don't get me wrong, he stayed. I'm pretty sure he got a good paycheck coming in for those 10 years between. So I ain't knocking the guy. It's just that they haven't been doing anything with him. And if they were just going to have to lose to the next person. We could argue, well, he'll help build up the next generation, but it wouldn't benefit Dolph Ziggler or the rest of his career. So I'm surprised, but I see it. I see Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, yeah, I understand Dolph going. That's not why I'm surprised. Like I said, I'm surprised for the same reason that you said that you're not surprised, that he's been there 8-9 years and they haven't done anything with him, but he survived every cut.
Yeah.
That's a surprise.
That's funny. Like, you said that one GIF in the chat with little baby counting his money, said Dolph Ziggler making it every round. I say I ain't mad at him, because if I was in that same situation, that would be me. I'm like, I'm here to just collect the check now.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. I was just surprised to see his name. When you see him survive every cut, knowing that they not doing nothing for him and he not doing nothing for them, and you expect to see him in the cut, when you finally see him get cut, it's just like, wow, they finally got him.
Right, because ain't he in his 40s right now?
Yeah.
See, look, he's smart. He was like, shoot, I'm preserving my body probably. I ain't worrying about this. I'm still getting this 6 or 7-figure contract money coming in. I ain't got to travel, so I ain't got to waste money on these amenities, stuff like that. Stay home and collect that bag. Like,
yeah, and you never see Ziggler in no mess on
right.
social.
Keep his nose out of all situations and bad business and everything. He do his comedy stuff on the side so he can collecting more pocket money at the same. Like,
he's good.
He was living up. He living the dream. He fine.
Yeah, I'm sure he ain't hurt behind it.
Right. He like, all right. That's when he probably took it. Shoot, like I said, the past 7 years collecting a check and probably wrestled like less than 200 matches or something like that. Yeah.
He was doing all right.
Right.
You know, here I will say there is one wrestler I am shocked on. It is Mustafa Ali. Now that I think about
Did
it,
he ask for his release though?
Yeah,
yeah,
he's asked several times.
I for its release, right? So yeah, he asked. It's just that he was in a storyline, and he was going to have a match at No Mercy on Saturday, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, shoot, change your plans. Granted, Trick Williams benefit out of this. Shout out to the boy, but
Yep.
that was a shock for me.
Yeah, like Mustafa Ali, his whole situation confuses me, and I guess it's always gonna be like that because it's probably stuff that we don't know behind the scenes that he probably hasn't revealed to us and that we just can't figure out. Because like with me, like he was always asking for it to like be released back then.
Yeah.
Then they offered him a contract to come back, and he decided to come back. And that just kind of threw me off. Maybe because the whole thing, maybe because Triple H took over, and we thought Vince McMahon was out. That could be a reason why. Then, like Vince McMahon came back, he like, okay, F this, I want to leave again. So
yeah, he was waiting for his contract to end at that point.
yeah. He like, he's back, so I'm ready to go now. Yeah. Another one that surprised me though, not as surprise. Well, it's a surprise. Top Dollar. Like him getting released, but they're keeping Ashanti the Adonis and B Fab. Like, I'm
So that sounds like there's more involved that we don't know about.
Yeah. Like
They
something
him go over that top rope on the internet. They tired of botched dollar memes and all that. They just had to cut it. It became too much for the social media team at WWE.
right, because I'm like you getting rid of like the main person of Hit Row. The person that so I'm just like, so what's gonna happen now? Like we're gonna see like the rise of Ashanti the Adonis, we're gonna see something from B Fab, but I'm trying for what kind of thing they're gonna pull for him, like storyline going forward.
If it's more cuts like they say, we'll see. Remains to be seen.
I ain't gonna say it, but like I said, something possible. But like I don't know. It just threw me off. The Elias release. I tell you how I feel about that. You made me cut my whole beard off, and you fire me. That's gonna be some problems. It's like with the New York Yankees. They have a rule where you have to have a clean shaven face. That's the only team in baseball that has that. Now, if I had got traded to the Yankees and they cut me 10 days later after I shaved my face, oh yeah, everybody getting sued because you make me cut my whole facial hair off, then fire me.
Fun fact for Elias, I know the boy, y'all know this, but Elias was actually favored in my household. And when my youngest was about to be, we was looking for a name that starts with an E. And so Elias showed up one night on Monday Night Raw with his kimono and his guitar, and that's what stuck out. And that's actually where we got our name for our youngest son. So that one hurt a little bit when Elias got cut. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, so that's
that.
Yeah, but other than that,
I'm dirty.
It always hurts when seeing people get released and get fired. But unfortunately, like that is a part of the business because that's the way they gotta make room for future stars, to come in and and they gotta save money somehow, some way. So I guess that's the way to do it, I'm not the business. I mean, I'm a businessman, but I'm not a businessman. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, so that's how it's supposed to go. So I just wanted to use that line. I don't know where you got.
You know,
thank you, appreciate it. Speaking of businesses, we're gonna talk about this is not even a business. we're just gonna talk about the PWI 500 real quick. And we're just gonna mention the top three, which are all former members of the Shield. And that is Seth Rollins being number 1, Roman Reigns being number 2, and Jon Moxley being number 3, aka formerly known as Dean Ambrose. So, with the Shield, with the WWE's homegrown product being the top 3 wrestlers of the year, quote unquote, how do you feel about this? Do you think that was an accurate ranking for that? JR, what's your thoughts on that?
Give me that one more time. Who do we have?
Number 1, Seth Rollins. Number 2, Roman Reigns. Number 3, Jon Moxley. They were the top 3 wrestlers in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine.
No, I
Is
don't
that what
agree.
PWR stand for?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was making sure. I want to make sure I messed it up. I was just saying what was on my head.
I don't agree with any of them being in the top 3. I'm a Moxley fan. I know a lot of people aren't, and I believe Moxley has performed at a high level for a long time. I believe he's top 5, but not top 3 at all. Roman Reigns, just because his character work, his in-ring work, everything's been phenomenal this year, but it's too little. He doesn't do enough to be that high, in my opinion. They're not going to have him out of the top 10 because he's longest reigning champ and he's actually really good at what he does, but he definitely shouldn't be number 2. And I
Because he
feel
doesn't
like
wrestle enough.
Huh?
Because he doesn't wrestle enough.
No, I don't feel like he wrestles enough to be
Yeah,
that
that's
high.
why I was figuring why you say that. Okay, got it.
Yeah. I don't think he wrestles enough to be that high. And Seth Rollins, I really don't feel like he's wrestled at his highest potential in the past 2-3 years. He's been more of a character than he has been focusing on his wrestling ability and showing out in his matches. So I disagree with all 3, to be honest.
J-Bo.
On a personal level, I agree with Harv, but on the criteria that they used to rate this, I guess I can see how they got there. Harv, I don't know if you heard it earlier, but the criteria they used was win-loss records, just won, quality of competition, major feuds, so that plays a role, prominence within the promotion, so that's clearly where they got those 3 from, and overall wrestling ability. So if they're using all of those criteria put together, I mean, I guess I can see how they are that high. The only one I wouldn't necessarily agree with is Jon Moxley. Number 4 on the list was Gunther. I would have put Gunther before Jon Moxley in that case.
How can you not agree with Jon Moxley? We always do this. This is the one guy we go in a circle about. Why not? Jon Moxley has the most, honestly, the most hard-hitting, high-profile matches in AEW consistently.
So just because he make himself lead, that's what puts him up there?
That's not what I'm seeing, and that's nothing. He don't always make himself lead.
I'm just talking. I just had to make him mad.
I get it. No, you're not gonna make me mad because I get it. I've had these conversations before. He does a lot of unnecessary stuff because he's paying homage to where he came from, to people like Mick Foley, Terry Funk. That's just what he likes to do. That doesn't mean that he's not wrestling his ass off when he's out there. That doesn't mean not over with the crowd. That doesn't mean that he's not executing. Jon Moxley is a top tier talent. Like I don't even if you don't like his style of wrestling, he is a top tier talent. It doesn't matter if you don't like what he does.
And that's fine. I'm not saying that he's not a top tier talent. I'm not even saying that he'll even belong in the top 5. I'm saying who's next on the list as far as, again, we're talking win-loss records, championships won from July 1st of 2022 to July 1st of 2023. If we're looking within that time frame, you're talking about, again, I'm only mentioning only the people in the top 5. We have somebody like Gunther who's not only been consistent, who's been a champion, who defended his championship, who's put on matches where people will probably put off as throw-offs, but were equally, if not very entertaining, all within that time frame. So again, it's not necessarily a knock to Moxley, but I'm just looking at the list, who comes first, who comes next, and that would be one of the changes I would make.
I hear you. Fuck the criteria. All right. But I hear you. I feel what you're saying. But Moxley, I feel like he deserved to be in the top before. If you're going by the criteria, I get it. But he's way better than what people give him credit for.
So who would your top 3 be?
Me personally, yep. I'd have MJF up there. I'd have Samoa Joe up higher. Samoa Joe would be in my top 5 this year.
Samoa Joe was...
What you say?
14. Samoa Joe was 14.
Yeah, I feel like that was way too low for Samoa Joe.
And Carmelo Hayes is 13.
I feel like Carmelo Hayes could have been higher. I'm not sure if top 10, definitely not top 5, but for the criteria, I feel like he's
could be a number 9 and number 8.
I also agree with Gunther. Gunther has been a one-man clinic for the past 2 years. So I agree. But MJF, I feel like keeps getting robbed.
Oh, I would have put MJF number one in my opinion.
Yeah.
For July 1st of last year to July 1st of this year, oh yeah, I would have definitely put him number one. No question.
I would have put Jade Cargill my number one, but that's just me. Just saying, just putting it out there.
I think another person, in my opinion, who got robbed is Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy has been putting on tremendous matches in the past year when he was AEW International Champion. Granted, he's number 8, so he's not bad. It's just, I don't know. If we're talking about that last year, he's been doing terrific, but he put on that profile for people to see him. So again, with that criteria, I guess it will make sense where he's at. But I think within the past year, he's definitely done a lot for him to be a bit higher on that list. By the way, MJF is number 6 from the past year. You know who beat MJF, which in my opinion is a surprise, is that one crazy high flyer that everyone loves, El Hijo del Vikingo. Yeah, he's number 5. He beat MJF.
Really?
Yeah, that's a big shock for me. Granted, I get the popularity he's had, but to beat MJF, that one I don't agree with.
That don't make sense. He's been the most popular face and heel in his company in the last year.
Yeah.
Right. That one threw me off, but to each his own, I guess.
That dude on commercials and stuff. His little commercial, his Wingstop commercial with Adam Cole is actually hilarious. I was surprised that it was
He's about to be in a movie.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in the Von Erich movie.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
That don't make sense. Yeah, as soon as you start reading it earlier, I didn't hear MJF in the first couple, and I was like, throw the list out. that don't make sense to me.
So here for the full 10, Seth Rollins was 1, Romans was 2, Moxley was 3, Gunther was 4, El Hijo del Vikingo is 5, MJF is 6, Okada is number 7, Orange Cassidy is 8, Josh Alexander was 9, and Cody Rhodes was 10.
I feel like they just threw Okada in their name here because his name is Okada.
Yeah, you can't have top 10 without Okada. No matter.
I know. That's why I feel like y'all just threw Okada in just because it's Okada. You know how I feel about him, but yeah.
You have to break in there.
I said it is what it is with that, but
they need to find a new ace soon. He getting old. He getting up there with the one that was before him. They called Japanese John Cena. I always forget his name. The one with the longer hair.
Yeah, but he's been extremely stiff lately. Oh man, can't remember his name. But yeah.
They need to be Tanahashi, yeah. Oh man, getting up there.
Have no idea who it is. But with all that being said, that's all the time that we have for No Roast Podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for showing up and showing out for us for this episode 78. We appreciate y'all, all the love, all the fanfare and everything, because without y'all, there will be no Roast Podcast. But before we sign out, y'all gotta do this one some prayer for us, and that is to follow us on all social media platforms: KTR_podcast, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. No Roast Podcast, Facebook, YouTube. No Roast Podcast on all podcast platforms: Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcast, Poppy on everything. And don't forget to get that merch at ProWrestlingTees.com/KTR Podcast. Let's get in, let's go, let's get out of this show. This is episode 78. I hope it is, because I ain't checked. 78, No Roast Podcast, #KTR, and we are out.
What should they do? Big Harv.
Pump them numbers, baby. Let's get them numbers up. God damn it.
That don't compute in my mind, I must be out of mind. Black fist high, rally up before we out of time.